In all my years on the bench, I have learned that the most dangerous cases are not the loud ones, not the ones filled with shouting, accusations, or obvious guilt. No, the most dangerous cases are the quiet ones, the ones that arrive wrapped in simplicity. An envelope. $8,000. A janitor. That morning I believed I was about to preside over one of those simple cases. I was wrong, and I do not say that lightly, because after decades in that courtroom, very little surprises me anymore. But what I heard that day stopped me, not because it was illegal, but because it revealed something far more unsettling than crime. It revealed how easily we forget what it means to be human. The courtroom was unusually still that morning. There is a certain kind of silence that settles before something important happens, not dramatic, not tense, just heavy. I walked in, took my seat, adjusted the files in front of me, and glanced at the docket. Civil dispute, recovery of property, delayed return. Routine, predictable, forgettable. That is what I thought. Then they brought him in. The janitor. His name was Bashir. He looked older than his years, though the file said he was 52. Life, I've learned, has a way of adding years without asking permission. His uniform was clean but worn, the fabric thinned at the elbows, the collar slightly faded, shoes polished but tired. I noticed his hands immediately. I always notice hands. They were rough, cracked, the skin uneven, like they had spent years gripping mops, buckets, and tools that no one else wanted to touch. Hands that build, hands that clean, hands that serve, hands that rarely get thanked. He stood there quietly, shoulders slightly forward, as if trying to take up less space than he was allowed. But his eyes were not weak, they were careful, and that is different. On the other side stood the owner of the money, Mr. Arman Qureshi, impeccable suit, confident posture, the kind of man who does not wait, he expects. He held himself like someone accustomed to being heard without needing to speak loudly. He did not look at Bashir, not once. That detail stayed with me, because indifference is often more revealing than anger. The lawyer began. Your Honor, this is a straightforward matter. My client lost an envelope containing $8,000 in his office building. The defendant, a janitor employed in that building, found the envelope and failed to return it immediately. He paused, letting the words settle. Instead, he kept it for approximately 2 days before returning it. During that time, my client had reason to believe the money was stolen. Stolen, a heavy word, even when it is only implied. I looked at Bashir. Did you find the envelope? I asked. Yes, Your Honor, he said softly. And did you return it? Yes. And was the full amount inside? He nodded. Yes, every rupee. I turned to the owner. Is that correct? Mr. Qureshi adjusted his cuff slightly. Yes, the money was intact. So there it was. No loss, no theft. And yet, we were here. I want you to think about that. A man returns $8,000, untouched, and still stands in court. This was not really about money, not anymore. Then why are we here? I asked. The lawyer stepped forward again. Because, Your Honor, the delay raises serious concerns about intent. If the defendant intended to return it, why wait 48 hours? A fair question. On paper, in law, but law is written in certainty. Life is not. I turned back to Bashir. Why didn't you return it immediately? That question, simple as it sounds, is where everything began to change. He hesitated, not in the way liars hesitate, but in the way honest people do when they are trying to explain something that does not fit neatly into words. I was afraid, he said. The courtroom shifted slightly. Afraid, not guilty, not tempted, afraid. Afraid of what? I asked. He looked down at his hands. Of being accused. There was a murmur, quiet, subtle, but present, because fear, when spoken honestly, has a way of unsettling people. Explain, I said. I clean the offices at night, he began, when everyone leaves. His voice was steady but low. I found the envelope under a desk. It had a name on it, but I didn't know if it was important or if it was a test. A test? Yes, Your Honor. What kind of test? He swallowed. The kind where, if something goes missing, they check who had access. He glanced briefly at the owner, then looked away. I've seen it happen before. I leaned back slightly, because this was not just about a delay. This was about a life lived under quiet suspicion, a life where honesty is not assumed, it is doubted. So you took the envelope home? Yes. And then? I counted it. How much was inside? $8,000. And then? I put it back. The lawyer interjected. Your Honor, counting someone else's money is already... I raised my hand. Let him finish. I sat with it, Bashir said. Sat with it? Yes. What does that mean? He took a deep breath. It means I didn't sleep. The room grew quieter. I kept thinking, if I return it, will they believe me? That question. I want you to hold on to it, because it is not just his question. It is the question of every person who has ever done the right thing and still feared being treated as if they didn't. I've seen people blamed, he continued, even when they were innocent. And you thought that might happen to you? Yes. The lawyer stepped in again. But, Your Honor, fear does not justify delay. The law is clear. Yes, the law is clear, but clarity is not always justice. Let's continue, I said. What changed your mind? I asked Bashir. He looked up slightly. My daughter. There it was, the deeper story, always there, waiting. She is sick, he said. The words came slowly now, carefully. Asthma, severe. Sometimes she can't breathe. The courtroom softened, just slightly. You need money for her treatment? Yes. And you had $8,000 in your hands? Yes. I paused. Because this is where stories are decided, not in what we have, but in what we choose to do with it. What did you think? I asked. I thought maybe this is help, he said. Not luck, not opportunity. Help. And then? He looked at me, straight this time, and then I realized, if I keep it, I will lose something more important. What? Myself. Silence. Not empty silence, full silence, the kind that carries weight. I have heard thousands of statements in that courtroom, confessions, denials, excuses, but very few people say something that simple and mean it completely. So you decided to return it? Yes. Why wait 2 days? And then, the moment came, the one that changed everything. I heard him, Bashir said quietly. He nodded toward Mr. Qureshi. He came looking for the money. And? He was angry. That was expected. And he said, Bashir hesitated, then spoke. He said, whoever took it is a thief, and they should be punished. There it was, the sentence that froze me, because words reveal more than facts ever can. I wanted to return it, Bashir said, but I wanted to make sure I would be seen as someone who returned it, not someone who stole it first. That is the moment where a case stops being legal and becomes human. I turned to Mr. Qureshi. Did you say that? He hesitated, only for a second. Yes, I was frustrated. Understandable, I said. And when he returned the money, what did you do? I reported it. Why? Because the delay was suspicious, even though nothing was missing? Yes. I leaned forward. And did you thank him? He did not answer immediately. No. That silence said everything. This is not really about delay, I said slowly. It is about perception. I looked around the courtroom. It is about who we believe and who we don't. I turned back to Bashir. You had need. Yes. You had opportunity. Yes. You had justification. He hesitated. Maybe. And still, you returned it. Yes. Then I turned to the owner. You had loss. Yes. You were made whole. Yes. And still, you chose suspicion. The room shifted, because now the truth was visible, not written in law, but felt. But there was one more piece, one more confirmation, because truth often needs a witness. Your Honor, a voice came from the back. An older man, security guard. I would like to say something. I allowed it. I saw him, the guard said, pointing gently toward Bashir, the night he found it. And? He didn't leave right away. He sat in the break room, just staring at that envelope. And then? He put it in his locker, locked it, and came back 3 times, just to check if it was still there. The courtroom leaned in again. He looked like a man, carrying something heavier than money. There it was, confirmation, not of facts, but of truth. I sat back, because now everything was clear, not legally, humanly. In this courtroom, I said slowly, we deal with facts, evidence, timelines. I paused, but sometimes we are asked to see something more. I looked at Bashir, a man who had every reason to take and chose to return. Then I looked at Mr. Qureshi, a man who lost and was restored, yet chose to doubt. This case, I said, is not about $8,000. It is about trust. It is about dignity. It is about what we assume before we understand. I lifted the gavel, but I didn't strike it yet. For those of you watching, I want you to remember this. Honesty is not proven in perfect conditions. It is proven in moments of temptation. I turned back to Bashir. You passed that test, then to the owner. But you failed a different one. The courtroom held its breath. This case is dismissed. The gavel fell, soft but final. Bashir stood there for a moment, as if unsure if it was real. Then slowly, he nodded and turned to leave. Mr. Qureshi remained still, thinking, perhaps seeing, for the first time. And me? I sat there, reflecting, as I often do. Because in the end, justice is not just about what was done, it is about who we become when faced with the choice. And that day, a janitor reminded an entire courtroom that dignity cannot be bought, cannot be measured, and cannot be taken unless we choose to give it away.